Joining me now is Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, and Lee Smith, author and journalist, whose series The Enemy Within: How America's Elites Sold Us Out to China gets to the very point of this open. All right, Congressman, it's a bit rich, don't you think, for Biden to claim kind of this folksy demeanor while his family is benefiting this entire time from his role in the federal government?
Well, particularly that statement where he said, I don't think you should get wealthy just because you're in high office. Well, there are 4.8 million reasons why that statement's not true, not accurate, because that's what his son got paid. And we now know, based on these text messages and emails, that it was a family enterprise. That's what Hunter Biden got paid from this Chinese energy company, CEFC. $4.8 million, thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars each and every month coming to him and his uncle, part of the family enterprise. So that just doesn't fly. These guys have, it's been that way for a long time. It's just now starting to come to the surface. And look, the press now has to admit that what we all said 18 months ago was true. The laptop was real. The eyewitness was real. The emails were real. It was all real, except for that, fake line we got from 51 former intel experts saying it was Russian disinformation. Now
he's also, Hunter is also, we keep forgetting this. He's getting paid handsomely for really, really lame art, if you can call it that. Do we know who's buying it, why they're buying it? Is it just a fascination? Is it somebody who wants to influence Joe? I mean, we don't really have any idea. But it doesn't look like the White House is worried about the Hunter Biden scandal because they're not even distancing themselves from him. He was actually spotted at the White House Easter egg roll after kind of keeping that low profile amid his federal investigation. It's the first time that he's been seen in public since the Washington Post authenticated the emails from his laptop on March 30th. Lee, are you surprised by this? Or that he wasn't in the bunny costume?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm surprised he wasn't the person in the bunny costume. He's probably showing up in lots of different places, all sorts of sports mascots and whatnot, just to be hanging around. Look, the point about the Biden family has been collecting for a long time. And the way that I look at it, I'm not expecting anyone to shed tears on behalf of Hunter Biden. But it's not just Hunter Biden. He's the ne'er-do-well kid with substance abuse problems with women, with problems with money. So he's kind of the front man, and he sort of elicits sympathy. The other players behind this are, of course, the President of the United States, for whom Hunter is effectively a bag man, and Uncle Jim Biden. So it's not just Hunter. It's the Biden family. And the relationship with China is extremely important, because what we're looking at is the Biden family is at the top of a regime that is structurally pro-China. If you look at Democratic Party donors between big tech, Hollywood, Wall Street, all of them depend on a cash flow from China. And if you look, Laura, as you were talking about the different policies, especially breaking the fossil fuel energy industry, that helps China. Why are all of the Biden administration's policies helping the People's Republic of China?
Now, speaking of this relationship with the CCP, today, in an interview, the Secretary of Climate, John Kerry, he was asked about the relationship now with China, given all these other issues that are floating about, especially, obviously he's focused on the climate question. Watch.
Some of the differences of opinion between our countries have been hardened and sharpened, and that makes the diplomacy more complicated. We need to get things going. But if climate becomes one of the tools, one of the weapons in the bilateral back and forth, we're cooked. We're in serious trouble.
You notice he's talking about being cooked, Congressman Jordan, about climate change, when we have these major geopolitical struggles going on with the Russian invasion and China helping Russia, and obviously the Solomon Islands security agreement. China's going to have a huge advantage over us now with that new security arrangement they have with the Solomon Islands. And he's talking about climate?
Yeah, I mean, as if that's what the American people are focused on. And I would just point out, too, it's not just China with the Biden family. Remember, Hunter Biden was taking money from the big energy company in Ukraine. He took money from the spouse of the mayor of Moscow. So he took money from all kinds of foreign interests that are concerns and adversaries of the United States. At the time. So that's part of this as well. But where's the issues that the American people care about? Where's the focus on the border? Where's the focus on the price of gasoline? $4 gas everywhere, $6 in California. Where's the focus on the 41-year high inflation rate? And you got Joe Biden and out doing this, and John Kerry talking about climate change, for goodness sake. So let's focus on the things the American people want us to focus on. I don't think the American people get these folks. There's a reason why Joe Biden's approval rating is at 33%. And some days I feel like they're intentionally trying to drive it into the 20s with all the stupid things they say. The most recent being the fact that they're going to appeal this mass decision by the federal judge. I mean, that's got to be one of the craziest things I've heard, but they're going to do it.
Yeah, well, Lee, final word to you on the Biden family business as Americans are struggling now to pay the bills.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to hit on climate for 1 second. The fact is that climate is the instrument to destroy the American working and middle class and to enrich China. And that's why Joe Biden is there, right? That's why Joe Biden is the avatar, and not just for Biden family interest, but for the Democratic Party and their performative progressive elite. That's what's going on. Climate is intended to break the working and middle American class.
Now, it's definitely going to impoverish us if we go down this road. Congressman Lee, great to see you both.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.